Hello everyone. My name is Zorine and I am the host of this show, 1-2 Punch. Welcome. For those who don't know, I imagine that's every single one of you since it is our inaugural episode. 1-2 Punch is a show focused on all things fighting games, from the newest patches to the latest tournaments and who's winning what. I've got you covered. But before we begin, a quick shout out to our sponsors without whom this show would not be possible. Pwn.gg is a site that provides all the odds and stats for esports betting, with its CSGO info being just the start. So the site examines players, maps, and teams to provide in-depth statistics for better betting, and we have a special promo code for today's listeners. If you use the code 12punch, that's the numbers 12punch, you'll get 50% off a 12-month subscription as well as a 2-week trial for free. So there you go. All right, on to the show. So who the hell am I? Your host, you ask. Well, allow me to introduce myself quickly. I hail from my motherland of Australia. I've been a part of the fighting game community for over a decade now. The FGC is pretty much like a second family to me. I've been playing fighting games ever since I was a wee young lass. Started with Tekken 2, moved on to playing Tekken 5 competitively in arcades. And the arcade is where I met many of my current friends and pretty much made my second family in the Australian FGC. Like many of the old school folks in the fighting game community, I have a lot of fond memories of hitting up arcades after school, hanging out with friends, and of course being the generally well-behaved students that we were, playing video games with kids from other schools. I then went on to dabble in some commentary for some of Australia's biggest fighting game tournaments. Have covered the FGC professionally for years. You probably might have heard my voice on the Ozhado Nationals or Shadowloo Showdown. Rest in peace. Love that tournament. If you love fighting games, you've probably seen some of my interviews or read some of my articles. So welcome to 1-2 Punch, where I have the pleasure of spouting about all manner of what's happening in the fighting game community and beyond for the better part of an hour, I would say. Just to quickly go over today's topics, we're going to look at recent tournaments recent tournament results for various fighting games, as well as a quick look at what happened last month. We've got events that are coming up as well. I've also put together a handy list of upcoming new releases and content we can look forward to, games, patches, everything, and all other relevant FGC news, which I think may be of interest to you folks listening. So we do also have a Twitter account. If you want to hit us up, it's at Esports Network. If you'd like to give us feedback, the hashtag is 12punch. That's the numbers 12punch. And of course, you can also tweet me directly at Zorine. That's at Zorine. I love to hear all your feedback, but we'll be right back after this very first break. Welcome back to 1-2 Punch, the show that we have punches in, and also kicks, and grabs, and overheads, and sweeps, all the things to do with fighting games. In our very first segment, let's recap some of the recent tournament results that have happened. I'm your host, Zorine Te, and we're going to talk about Capcom Cup 2017, Battle for the Stones, and the recently finished Cooperation Cup. So we're well into the start of 2018. We don't have much info about CPT yet, but we'll get into that in just a moment. So to jog your memory, let's have a quick look over what happened at Capcom Cup 2017. The grand final was anything but predictable. We had Mena RD, a player from the Dominican Republic who signed to Rise. He went head-to-head with Echo Fox's Tokido, and the two had actually met in the winners' finals of Capcom Cup, with Tokido scraping it out on top to knock Mena RD into the losers bracket. But here's what I loved about that grand final. Mena RD, clear underdog here, right? Like, there's no denying that. We've got this relatively new player, a Smash player no less, facing off with one of the most established, famous Street Fighter players from Japan, Tokido, who has been on a rampaging spree ever since he won EVO 2017, pretty much. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like Tokido. He is a machine of a Street Fighter player, and he's always really humble. He's super nice. He works really hard. And, you know, whenever I spoke to him, I interviewed him recently at ESL One New York, you know, he was just a really nice guy, like, to talk to. I really enjoyed interviewing him. But for Mena RD to come in and shake things up as an underdog, I think that's what this scene needs. And boy, did he shake things up. At first, Tokido looked pretty comfortable, winning 2 games, and it was almost like, oh, here we go, like Tokido wins again. Like, like as much as everyone loves him, it's also like same story, right? But then Mena RD climbed his way back up, winning 3-2 and reset the bracket, putting both players on an even field. Now that's a really tough position to come back from. Like he is literally down to the very last match and like it's almost game over. But he manages to climb back up and like do the impossible and like fight the hardest fight ever to do this. And then not only that, but he went on to win 3-1, causing one of the biggest upsets in Street Fighter V history. So congratulations to Mena RD. He picked up $250,000 for his win. And Mena RD, like as a player himself, I think he brings a lot of hype to the competition as well. For those who've seen him in person, like they've probably seen like he has this little squad who gets really loud while he's playing. I think they're like from the Dominican Republic, like the FGC players from there. But like they yell and they cheer and they chant a lot. I've witnessed it firsthand and it's seriously great. I think it brings a lot of hype and excitement and it definitely beats an audience that is dead silent. So Mena RD placed first and Tokido placed second. Let's just quickly go through the players who placed top 10 in Capcom Cup. I think that's no easy feat and I think they deserve some recognition. They would have had to fight their way throughout the Pro Tour 2017 season, which is not an easy task. And to make it to Capcom Cup, the top 32 Street Fighter V players in the world, that is, that's a stressful ordeal. So I think they deserve a bit of like a shout out. So obviously we have Mena RD who came first. He came into the tournament actually as 25th on the CPT Global Ranking leaderboard. He more recently placed 4th at Brooklyn Beatdown. Pretty much came up out of nowhere, I think, for this tournament. I don't think anyone could have predicted the results as they were. Obviously, we have Echo Fox's Tokido at second. In third place, we had Nemo, who had a very strong showing this year. He placed 4th at DreamHack Montreal, 2nd at East Coast Throwdown. He's just pretty much had a solid, strong performance all year. So it's really nice, I think, to see Nemo come up and place 3rd at Capcom Cup. Then we have Moke, who is, newcomer, really young player. I think he's one that's really worth watching. He started competing late compared to everyone else. He played his first tournament in July 2017. CPT season started in March. Then he went on to place 5th at Evo. Like, this Rashid player is definitely one to watch out for. And I think it's really exciting to see him come in, like, out of nowhere pretty much. He's super young and he can, like, show that he can fight against, like, the well-established great players and go toe-to-toe to them. And I think, he only has improvements to, like, he can only go up from here. So well done to Moke. 5th place, we have Yukadon as well as Itabashi Zangief. Yukadon, I mean, it's Yukadon. What can I say? I love that guy. And Itabashi Zangief, amazing Zangief player. Love seeing Zangief players come up and do well in tournaments. And Itabashi Zangief in general has had a really strong year. I think, he placed top 8 at EVO. He did really well. Congratulations to him. I hope, hopefully the new arcade edition of the game makes things a little bit easier for him. In equal 7th place, we had Daigo Umehara, of course, the beast. What can I say? Nice to see him place in top 8. I imagine, he's had a bit of a stressful year. He's talked about, resetting his mental state in a lot of interviews before in 2017. So I think seeing him come up and place 7th is great. And then we have also Problem X at equal 7th place. Pretty much like the UK champion, right? I think it's really great to see him come up as well because UK historically a region that doesn't see a lot of representation in Street Fighter. So for Problem X to come up and place 7th in Capcom Cup, big deal. Congratulations to him. He performed really well. In general, I think he's also had a really good year. He was ranked 1st on the Europe CPT rankings for 2017. He won EGX. He placed 5th at Canada Cup. Like, he's in general had a very good year. So really excited to see what he does in 2018. And then we have 4 players in equal 9th place, of course. We have Punk, the American hero, the champion, the guy who came so close to clinching that win at EVO. He must have been upset about placing 9th at Capcom Cup, but boy, you should be proud. Like, I think he's done so well this year, and for such a young player as well. I mean, he's equal 9th with like Momochi, Luffy, and Bonchan. Like, these players have been around for so long and are so good. So for Punk to be able to stand toe-to-toe with them, I think is amazing. Momochi, of course, it's the Momochi. What else can I say? And Luffy in 9th place, really nice to see him there. The EVO 2014 winner. He was ranked 2nd in the Europe placements for CPT. So well done to Luffy and, of course, Bonchan. So I just also want to drop a quick note. There was no Knuckle-Do in Capcom Cup this year for whatever reason. He pulled out due to personal reasons, so he was not able to compete. Sorry, to defend his title. But well done to all 32 players who made it through to Capcom Cup. You swam through the pool of sharks throughout CPT in 2017. No easy feat, and I think you should all be proud of your placements, regardless of where you were. So next up, I also wanted to quickly talk about Battle of the Stones, which was a super interesting deal for a number of reasons. It was the first year of the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite's release, I guess, and Capcom experimented with a rather strange and different tournament format. So Marvel comic enthusiasts will know about the Infinity Stones that have featured in both the comics and Marvel Cinematic Universe. For anyone who's been living under a rock, that includes films like Iron Man, Captain America Civil War, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, Thor, the most recent Thor movie. Well, the Battle of the Stones tournament series made use of these stones as well. So there are 6 different stones: space, soul, time, power, mind, and reality. And the bearer of each stone in the tournament can activate, and I say that term in air quotes, so they can activate the stone to unlock a specific property in the tournament and bend the rules. So, for example, if the player has a Mind Stone and they activate it, they can choose both of their opponent's characters and in-game Infinity Stones. That's right, in a tournament. So now there are some restrictions, of course. The Infinity Stone can only be used one time for each person who has it, and players can't activate 2 stones in a single set. It's definitely something weird and new, but an interesting twist to say the least, and props to Capcom for trying something different. I think it may not have been favored by a lot of people, but they did something different. I think that's cool. Onto the results. We're going to go over them quickly. So we had Cloud 805 versus Chris G in the grand final. It was a close final. It was hosted at the PlayStation Experience. Cloud 805 won with his chosen team of Zero and Dante. He went 3-2 over Chris G's team of Morrigan and Monster Hunter. Cloud 805 had 2 stones. He chose not to use them, giving a nice, good, clean fight. And he took home $20,000 as his prize money, as well as a one-of-a-kind, massive Infinity Gauntlet trophy. Seriously, that thing was one of the most impressive trophies I have ever seen. If you haven't seen it, look it up or something. It's huge. It looks gorgeous. It's like the Infinity Gauntlet. It has all the stones embedded in it. It's probably more than the prize money itself, to be honest, what it's worth. And I heard Capcom spent a lot of money to get it made, but that is seriously a one-of-a-kind trophy. Well done to Cloud 805, winning over Chris G, who was, of course, the Marvel 3 champion from EVO. But well done. It was a really interesting fight, and I'm really curious to see what Capcom does with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite this year, to be honest. I think the tournament results and just the viewership might not have been what they hoped, and of course the game itself was released to mixed reception, I gotta say. So maybe we'll see something else, but I think in general it'll be up to the community to prop up Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite to see where it goes, and fingers crossed it goes somewhere, because I think that game has a lot of potential. But enough from me. We'll be right back after this break to talk about Cooperation Cup, the latest news, and more fighting game stuff. Thanks, everyone. Hello, welcome back. I'm Zorine Te. You're listening to 1-2 Punch, the show about fighting games. And if you have anything you want to say to us about the show or feedback, guests you'd like to see, and we will be having guests in the future, don't forget to tweet at us. You can tweet at me, at Zorine, that's at Zorine, or you can tweet with the hashtag 12punch. I'm reading all the things and lurking on Twitter, social media, as is befitting of my generation. But next, we're going to talk about Cooperation Cup, which took place on January 6th, quite recently, actually. It's a Street Fighter Third Strike tournament, yes. That game still has a very strong scene in Japan, as evidenced by the turnout for this tournament. The format is a 5v5 team battle, and 108 teams entered. Let's do the maths. 108 of of teams of 5 people. That's like over 500 people who entered. This tournament is known for its high level of third strike gameplay, and it's the 16th iteration of it. Still going strong. Really nice to see, actually. I did catch the tournament over the weekend, and it was a true pleasure to watch. But onto the results. There could only be one team who emerged victorious, but we'll start off with who placed third. So team exclamation mark question mark, that's right, exclamation mark question mark, they placed third. Their 5 players were the Beef, who used Ushi, sorry, is that Ushi? Sorry, the Beef, who used Yun, Shino, who used Urien, Kamata, who used Makoto, Machiken, who used Ken, and Hitahata, who used Dudley. Just the usual third strike suspects, as we expect to see. In fact, you're gonna laugh when you hear who I announced placed first. But in second place, we have Kimitachi Wado Ikiruka. So that team was Mester, who used Yoon, Higa, who used Ibuki, Moribi, who used Ken, Jima, who used Dudley, and KO, who used Yang. And then in first place, we have Hoyoku Gene Suzaku, whose team was comprised of multiple Yoon players. We have Oroka, who used Yoon, D-Run, who also used Yoon, Red, who used Ibuki, L, who also used Yoon, and Shirokuro, who used Chun-Li. So well done to the team of Yoons who placed first. No surprises there. My favorite was seeing the Remy players come out of the woodwork. But yeah, Corporation Cup, if you love Street Fighter V Third Strike, maybe you should definitely check out the replays. I think the grand final is worth watching. Well done to the team who placed first. Next, we have upcoming events. So we don't have any details announced for the Capcom Pro Tour 2018. Typically, Capcom announces those quite late into the year. I'd say, so in 2017, they announced them in February, and the Pro Tour circuit started in March. So I think we're probably going to see something similar, either like mid-February or like early March, I think is when they'll, reveal the CPT plans. As for Battle of the Stones, the MVCI tournament, I mentioned this just before, but I'm not sure if we're going to see anything from Capcom this year for that tournament. I predict that it will have to be something that the community takes on themselves, which, I think is not all a bad thing. Like, FGC has been running it for a very long time now. It's only recently the publishers have stepped in. So, I think the Marvel scene is really going to have to rely upon its own, passion to prop itself up. Of course, we have the EVO Japan tournament coming up. Big tournament. Everyone's talking about it. It's taking place January 26th, 28th. It'll be the first ever EVO to be hosted in Japan. It's a free entry tournament, although I believe the window for signups is already closed. But let's take a look at the stats so far via Smash GG. We've had over 5,000 entrants registered. That's a massive tournament, holy moly. So for Street Fighter V, around 2,300 players have already registered. For Guilty Gear XRD Rev 2, we have 1,239 players. Tekken 7 has 1,231 players. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U has around 800 players. BlazBlue Central Fiction around 629 players. King of Fighters 14, over 550 players. Wow, actually, I'm surprised that BlazBlue has more entrants than King of Fighters. And then finally, we have ARMS. ARMS, the classic ARMS. 343 entrants. Interesting numbers. I guess I shouldn't be surprised to see Guilty Gear up there so high. I mean, Street Fighter V was always going to be the most popular game, over 2,300 entrants. That's crazy. Tekken 7's doing really strong as well. I'm also curious how many no-shows we're going to have on the first day of pools. I imagine some people have been signing up to live the dream of going to EVO Japan without any actual intention of showing up. If you are one of those people, please do everyone a favor and withdraw yourself from the bracket, because I think it really makes things harder for TOs. I just can't imagine the day when EVO Japan, first ever EVO, they're all running around trying to locate all these players. It's going to be crazy. But, I'm also really excited to see what kind of players come out of the woodwork. Japan has a really strong fighter game scene. And I imagine there's a lot of Japanese players there who don't get the chance to travel outside of the country. And participate in tournaments like EVO in the US and so stuff like that, or even Capcom Pro Tour. So I think it'll be really exciting to see what players come out of the woodwork for EVO Japan. I think we're going to see a lot of new talent. We're going to see a lot of unknown names. People are going to be like, who are these people? Like, who is this player who's like just going around and like killing everyone in the pools and causing upsets? It's going to be so great. There's a 1 million yen prize per each title, whatever that means. A million yen is about 8,800 USD. Day 1 and 2, so pools, take place in Sunshine City Bunker Hall, which is in Ikebukuro, and then day 3 finals will take place fittingly in Akiba Square, which is based in Akihabara. So if you've ever been to Japan, I say fittingly because Akihabara is known as the mecca for all things anime and video games. So it's kind of fitting that the finals will take place there. So, as I said, I'm really excited to see what kind of players come out of the woodworks for this tournament. Although bear in mind that Street Fighter V was not released in arcades, which is pretty much where the Japanese scene thrives. I wonder how this will impact, their performances at this tournament. How many players get to go out and like play with other people in the community when there's no game in the arcade. Like you have to organize like house sessions or something. I don't know. So I just imagine that will really shake things up. But then again, really excited to see like who shows up and plays in this tournament. If it is your first time going to Japan and you are going to EVO, there are a lot of guides that have been posted online. I've seen like a couple like not advertised, but like, shared around. Justin Wong even wrote one, which is really great. And I'm kind of envious of everyone who gets to go. Shout outs to the Australian FGC who's making an appearance there. If you are staying in the US of A, though, for the rest of us, there is Frosty Fausting's 10 to look forward to. That's taking place on January 19th to 20th. Over 1,200 players have signed up. It is going to be hosted in its usual place in Elmhurst, Illinois. Almost pretty much every fighting game is featured. We have Street Fighter V, Tekken 7, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Injustice 2, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Wii U, KOF, and a whole bunch of side games as well, like Skullgirls and Windjammers. Windjammers. Whoever thought we'd see a Windjammers tournament? I love it. Classic games, bring them back. These tournaments are the most fun. It is a big community vibe type of event. So really looking forward to both Frosty Fausting's 10 and EVO Japan. Going to be watching both of these online. So that's it for tournaments coming up. Let's dive into upcoming releases and news quickly. What we're going to talk about next, I'm going to go over SF5 Arcade Edition that's coming out. We have the patch notes that were leaked. Of course, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Injustice 2, Soul Calibur 6. Oh my god, so much news coming out. We have so many games for 2018. Really exciting time to be a fighting game player, actually. But let's quickly take a look at Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, which is coming out on January 16th for PS4 and PC. This updated version of the game will include post-release content from Season 1 and Season 2 of Street Fighter V. As well as a number of new gameplay changes. I think the biggest one that everyone's talking about right now is the second V trigger that each character gets. So, for those who don't know, V trigger is a skill that every character can do. It's different for the properties of the skill is different for each character. Once your V bar fills up, you can use it, and typically you can use it once, but it depends on the character. This new version, Arcade Edition, will also introduce a number of new modes. We're going to get Extra Battle, which allows you to fight against unique enemies. You defeat golden-colored Shadowloo soldiers, according to Capcom's info, and you get fight money. Fight money, of course, being the currency of Street Fighter V. There may even be opponents wearing special alternate costumes. Yay. We're also going to get Arcade Mode. Gosh, finally, Arcade Mode into, as the name suggests, Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. It's to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Street Fighter, and the arcade mode will have the story paths of 6 Street Fighter games. There's an ending comic panel for each character in each path, and of course you can turn on fight request while taking on arcade mode, so accept online challenges. It's gonna be great. I never thought I'd be saying like, oh, we're finally getting arcade mode back in Street Fighter V. Isn't that amazing? What a time to be alive. Then, of course, there's the gallery, which you can, peruse, watch endings, over 200 pieces of artwork, the usual stuff for, like, big Street Fighter fans. V-Trigger 2, of course, is the other big addition. It'll change up the playstyles for each character, apparently. And we're, of course, also going to get an updated UI. So the character select and battle screens have been overhauled, say Capcom. We're going for substance over style. I don't know how I feel about that. I like substance, but I also like a bit of style as well. So for those that already own Street Fighter V, all this new gameplay-related content, such as arcade mode, extra battles, second V-trigger, gallery, all that stuff, will be available as part of a free in-game update. Note that the characters from Season 1 and 2 are not going to be included. RIP. So if you are like me and you picked up Street Fighter V at launch, you're going to have to either, as per usual, unlock the characters using fight money or by paying real money. So you basically get everything in this update except costumes and characters. That makes me sad, but hey, what can you do? Also, free content. I mean, it's free. Shouldn't complain. But for everyone else, might want to check out Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. But for now, we're going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about more FGC news. Hey you. Yes, you. Listening to 1-2 Punch right now. I am your host, Zorine. Welcome back. We have a lot of news to get through, so I'm going to do my best to rap god this. It's going to be great. Street Fighter V Arcade Edition patch notes were leaked online, and I say leaked loosely because they were actually posted online by Capcom themselves. Why are they so good at leaking their own news? They were posted online on the Japanese Capcom Fighters Network page before they then pulled them down for whatever reason. And while this presumably means that Capcom weren't meaning to release them quite yet, I mean, it's out there. They're out on the internet. Once something's out on the internet, it's pretty much there forever. So some people have already translated some of the news. Capcom did later say, though, that they promised an official post will be out soon and that the information in the leaked patch notes weren't finalized. So, I mean, I would hope that the information is coming soon, seeing that Arcade Edition is pretty much on our doorstep. But Capcom, please, come on. Let's not forget when they leaked a bunch of other funny stuff about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. But anyway, next up, we have Dragon Ball FighterZ, the game that everyone's talking about. Or if you're Australian like me, Dragon Ball FighterZ. But who's going to call it that, right? So the game's coming out February 1st in Japan and January 26th, which is Australia Day actually, outside of Japan for the rest of the world. Bandai Namco did recently release a new trailer for SSGSS Vegeta. Try saying that 5 times fast. Very excited about this game, of course. Anyone who's a Dragon Ball fan is going to be super hyped. The game itself visually looks fantastic. Throws back to a lot of the Dragon Ball Z moments from the anime and the manga. And I think, it's just not only a gorgeous game, but mechanically it looks super, super solid. I mean, this game is being developed by Arc System Works, who are best known for their Guilty Gear fighting games, BlazBlue Central Fiction, Persona 4 Arena. They know what they're doing, right? And I think mechanically the game's going to be super solid and, just the way, it's like the full package, right? It's visually exciting. It looks like the game is rewarding in its gameplay. But the big question is, will this game be successful? Each player has to learn 3 characters. So you have 3 characters to a team. Characters can be called in for assists, which, as you can imagine, act as combo extenders or fillers. And the match only ends when all 3 characters have their health knocked down to 0. So, it's not like Tekken Tag or anything where if a character completely loses their health, they die and you're out of the game. No, you don't have to balance all that. If a character gets knocked down, another one will be called in easily. So matches are a reasonable length because of this. And basically players will have to learn 3 different characters. And I think that might be a bit of a barrier to a lot of casual players. And, I know we hate the word casual players, but honestly, the casual players are the ones who make a game succeed. If Bandai Namco sells this game well and it's a success, great, fantastic, everyone benefits. But the question remains, will the game's mechanics be too complex for a new player to pick up? I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I personally have stayed away from trying to expose myself to any sort of media or trailers about this game, which has been really hard, actually. I'll let you know, everyone on my timeline is talking about this game and tweeting about it. But I'm trying to go in, with no impressions whatsoever so I can have a fresh look. That's how I prefer to play my games. But still really excited to see what this game can do. Of course, going to be picking it up when it comes out. That's 26th of January for everyone. Happy Australia Day. Pick up Dragon Ball FighterZ. So that'll be great. And, I'm real curious to see how Bandai Namco, the publisher, will choose to support this game competitively. Of course, you know, they did Tekken World Tour last year. They've been upping their esports, I guess, plans. So maybe they'll be doing something for Dragon Ball FighterZ. Who knows? Something to consider. Next up, we also have Injustice 2. Their new character Enchantress comes out. Well, it's already out if you picked up the Ultimate Edition of Injustice 2. So January 9th was when Enchantress was released for those who own the Ultimate Edition. Everyone else gets her on January 16th. Enchantress, of course, being a character who most people know from the movie Suicide Squad. I hope she does the wiggly moon dance that she does in that movie. I hope that's part of her move list. But it's great to see that NetherRealm Studios and Warner Brothers are still supporting Injustice 2 post-release. Like, they've been quite active, you know, releasing content for the game, and I think that's really cool. Enchantress looks pretty cool as well. Like, her move list and everything that she was doing that I've seen in the trailers looks really awesome. So, you know, there you go. Injustice 2, more content, more characters. Everyone wins. Next up, if you missed it, Soul Calibur 6 was announced in December last year. Bandai Namco announced it unexpectedly during the Game Awards. The game celebrates the 20th anniversary of the Soul Calibur series, or Soul Blade, whichever you prefer. We don't have a release date or window for the game yet. All we know is that it's going to be released worldwide in 2018. Really excited to see Soul Calibur come back. I never thought I'd see the Soul series come back for a very long time, to be honest. It almost caught me by surprise and came out of nowhere. Like, I died when I saw that trailer. We don't know much about the game yet. They've only released they've only released a trailer that shows, like, you know, two characters. Like, we saw Mitsurugi and Sufishia there. And from what I've seen, actually, some theories have gone around that it might be a reboot of the first game just because of the way the characters are designed. But again, we don't know anything. It's early days. All we know is that Soul Calibur's back, you know? That's going to be really exciting for everyone. And, you know, it's the Soul Calibur games. Like, come on, it's been so long since we've had a fighting game that features weapons. I think that in of itself is kind of exciting. So fingers crossed we get some more info on that soon. In other news, K-Brad recently announced that he's parting ways with Evil Geniuses, that team that brought him up, and he's been with them for nearly over 4 years. Really interesting to see another player leave EG. I wonder what that means for EG. We don't know where he'll go next yet. He hasn't announced it, but, you know, that's pretty much who's left on EG. Think about it. So we have Chris G, Ricky Ortiz on the, like, fighting game community side. Like, EG is in an interesting spot. You know, of course, last year we had their pretty much like exodus of players to Echo Fox. You know, they took Justin Wong, Mochi, Choco Blanca. They took like a whole bunch of players to add to their existing roster as well. And not only that, they took the manager as well, which was, you know, like salt in the wound, don't you think? I am really interested to see not only where K-Brad goes next, but what are EG's plans for the FGC, considering they've lost so many players to other teams. You know, EG is an organization that's been in esports for a very long time, and, you know, highly respected North American esports organization. But for K-Brad to, you know, say goodbye, like arguably one of their most, I guess, spotlighted players. Wherever he goes next, though, like, best of luck to him, and any team would be lucky to have him. You know, K-Brad's such an established Street Fighter player. Best of luck to him. In other news, Big Fish Casting, which is a casting agency based in Los Angeles, put out a casting call in December 2017 for amateur Street Fighter players. The announcement itself had E-League branding on it, so we can assume that Turner is in some way involved, whether it'll be directly with their E-League tournament or anything like that, who knows. The wording or the text on the announcement was, prove you've got what it takes to play against the pros, and they're asking for amateur Street Fighter players. So amateur being anyone who's not already professionally sponsored or signed to a team. We don't know much about what their plans are yet or what this actually is about, but we can assume it's some sort of like FGC reality show, I guess maybe in the vein of like Cross Assault, which of course was a reality show that was sponsored by Capcom. We had WCG Ultimate Gamer, which was a reality television program that aired on Sci-Fi and sponsored by Samsung, the World Cyber Games. This was like 2009, 2010. Who remembers that show? Justin Wong was on it. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing him play Tekken in that show. But it really begs the question, like, do fighting game reality shows have a place in the FGC? I don't know. To be honest, I have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, we get some real cringe moments with these reality shows that try to integrate themselves into the FGC. On the other hand, it spotlights a lot of new talent, I think, which is interesting. We have like personalities out there, and like esports can always benefit from more personalities and like faces to represent them. So I think, whatever they do, and of course Turner, who is no stranger to hosting tournaments in esports, they had the Street Fighter V Invitational, which was super interesting. They did their Injustice 2 stuff as well. So I think, wherever they decide to take the show, it'll be a great thing to watch. It only benefits us, the FGC. That's just what I think about it. Anyway, more content is great, right? Like, everyone likes to see that. Next up, we have the Madcatz runback. That's right, Madcatz is back. After filing for bankruptcy in March 2017, the peripherals manufacturer is making a comeback. So they haven't announced anything outside of PC gaming hardware yet. They're only going to be showcasing mice and keyboards and headsets. They're at CES, which takes place in Vegas. It's a big technology convention or conference, whatever you want to call it, on January 9th to 12th, and they're showcasing some of their stuff behind closed doors there. So while there's no arcade sticks or anything of that flavor announced yet, it at least shows that I think Madcatz is making an effort to come back, and that's always great. It was real sad to see them file for bankruptcy. It was kind of like, oh, that's an end of an era. But maybe we'll eventually see an arcade stick from them. Who knows? Who knows? So, yay, more Madcatz. In other news, Fighting X Layer, the game that probably doesn't have the best name, had their beta recently. This game is from the same people who brought us the Street Fighter X series of games in the 1990s. So the reason why it's called Fighting X Layer, I think, is because of trademark issues, licensing issues. The Street Fighter name is, of course, owned by Capcom. So their game does not have any of the Capcom-owned Street Fighter characters, like Guile or, Ryu or Ken or anything, but they do have their own confirmed characters like Zorine Meister, Skullomania, Doctrine Dark, all the classics, but really great to see them make a comeback after their April Fool's announcement. But that's enough from me for now. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we'll be right back on 1-2 Punch. Hey. Welcome to 1-2 Punch. I'm your host, Zorine. We're back for the last segment. Man, this tune is just so great, so uplifting. We are on Twitter. I'd like to hear all your feedback. Don't forget to hit us up. You can tweet us with the hashtag 1-2punch. That's the numbers. So really, it's like hashtag 12punch. You can also tweet me directly at Zorine. That's at Zorine. And you can also tweet the Esports Network Twitter handle, which is at Esports Network. No spaces, no underscores. It's just at Esports Network, as the name suggests. You can also check out our YouTube channel where we have video content, interviews, features, etc. It's just youtube.com/esports network. We also have a Twitch channel. Man, we're everywhere. Twitch.tv. I think it's /esports network. Future plans for the show include taking guest calls, so be sure to hit us up on any of those channels and let us know who you'd like to see come on the show. We'll be talking about upcoming tournaments, new releases, community news. I welcome all your feedback. And we'll be back here on a regular time slot here on the Fantasy Radio Network. So every Tuesday, 7 p.m. PST, 10 p.m. EST for those based on the East Coast. But we all know West Coast is best coast. Am I right? We're also here available as a podcast, so you can subscribe to us on a podcast format wherever you choose to listen to your podcasts. But thank you so much to everyone. We covered a lot today on 1-2 Punch. I did also get to mention at the very end, right before we went to the break, I just wanted to quickly talk about Fighting X Layer, that game from the people who brought us Street Fighter X in the 1990s from Arica. So they've already confirmed a whole bunch of characters for that game. Some people played the beta. I did not, because I don't like playing betas. I like to learn the game when it's finally released. But confirmed characters already include Alan Snyder, Blair Dane, Darun Meister, or Mr. Sorry, I say Meister as like an in-joke, so now it's like a habit with my friends. Doctrine Dark, Garuda, Hokuto Shirase, same character really, Kairi, and Skullomania, the hero. the Japanese salaryman hero who they revealed at EVO. I think it's great that this game series is coming back, especially given that they revealed this initially as an April Fool's joke and then kind of did a 180 and were like, hey everyone, this is actually not an April Fool's joke. We're going to release this game for real. It makes me wonder if they tried to release it as like a test, you know, like that trailer on April Fool's as a test to see the reception. And then if everyone was like, this game looks great, they'll turn around and be like, hey, we're actually going to release it. But if everyone had said, oh, that game series kind of sucked, then they would have been like, haha, well, it was April Fool's joke anyway. We're not going to release this game. But anyways, either way, I think it's a great time. 2018 is going to be a great year for multiple fighting games. We're going to have so much new stuff come out. It's a great time to be a fighting games fan in general. Isn't that right? Dragon Ball FighterZ. We have Street Fighter Arcade Edition, which I think is going to inject a whole lot of new energy into the Street Fighter scene. Soul Calibur 6. We have Fighting X Layer, which may be coming out this year. Who knows? Regardless, I think it's a great time to be a fighting games fan. And always love to talk about fighting games. So if you do want to chat to us, hit us up on Twitter, #12punch or #12punch, wherever you want to say it. You can also tweet me at Zorine, that's at ZORINE. Can't wait to talk to you more about fighting games. And we have so many plans for this show. Really hope you enjoyed it. This was our inaugural episode. And we have so much to cover. EVO Japan coming up so soon. Good luck to everyone who's going to be crossing waters to compete in that tournament. You know, I think it's going to be a great event for everyone involved and really look forward to seeing where the streams and performances go for that one. I'm your host, Zorine. This is our very first episode of 1-2 Punch. I hope you enjoyed listening and hopefully I'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.